All right, YouTube, you've asked for it. You've been waiting for it. I apologize for the delay. I've been busy with events. We just got done with 7 events this past weekend. Here today, coming to you with a promised review comparison. I have the new LD Systems Maui 28 G3s. I'm going to tell you a little overview of my feeling on using these. I use them for about 3 events, 3 weddings, and tell you what I feel about them compared to my Bose, which everybody knows out there, YouTube land. The Bose L1 Pro 16s are my favorite speakers for DJing weddings. But I really like the Mauis. I like the white. Bose doesn't offer white, so I'm going to tell you what my feeling is about the LD Maui Systems G3s 28s coming up right after this. Stay tuned.
This is another JPW production.
All right, we are back. First of all, I always like to explain to YouTube out there, all the people watching on YouTube, that I am not an audio engineer by any means. I'm just a DJ, professional wedding DJ that's been doing it for a long time. So to me, I know what sounds good, what serves a purpose for doing weddings. If you're a club DJ or you do a lot of proms and large school events, maybe this won't apply to you, but this is mainly for people that do weddings. I'm looking for the perfect set of column speakers for people that do weddings. And most of my weddings, probably 95% of the weddings we do are for 200 people or less. Mainly, most likely around the 150 area, 120, 150, as far as amount of guests. Room size, average country club, medium-sized room, nothing too crazy, nothing too small. Usually just a medium-sized room at all the events we do. All right, so first up, we're gonna get into the pros of the LD Systems Maui 28 G3s. All right, first up for the pros on the Maui 28s. We're just gonna call them the Maui 28s from now on, so I don't have to say the whole entire title. You know what it is. But anyways, first up, the color. Obviously, I'm looking for a white column array. LD has the white, it's awesome. Some DJs don't like it because it'll get marked up and nicked up really quick. I have covers and bags for the columns. I take care of them so they shouldn't get nicked. But like I mentioned in my previous comparison video, I really like the white for DJing weddings because when they dim the lights down, people are less likely to bump into them because you can see them a lot better in the dark versus a black speaker in darkness. So that's my opinion on it. I just think it's more of a safety issue. Also cosmetically, I like how it looks with my setup. Here's a picture of my complete setup with the Mauis. I really like the way that looks, man. I don't know. Some people like the black. I like the white, so just a matter of taste, but I really wanted a pair of white speakers, so that's number 1. Next item for the pros would be simplicity. I'll show you the back of this speaker. It's pretty simple. You got inputs, you got a volume for your master volume, and then you got a bass volume for your sub. And that's pretty much it. You're not doing any EQing or anything like that with this speaker. It's just a simple plug and play. So for DJs that don't like to have all that stuff, it's a very simple plug and play. There's no music mode, vocal mode, nothing like that. Just simple plug and play. So very simple. I like it. Keeps it simple right out of the box. The next thing for the Maui 28 G3s is the build. Out of all the speakers I've used, I did the EV Evolve 50s, the Bose L1 Pro 16s, and now the Maui G3 28s. The build on this one is the best, man. It is rock solid. Let me just show you something real quick here. Let's see if I get this off. So this post actually goes in with 4 steel posts there. I mean, that is just, I mean, it is not going anywhere. This is rock solid. This thing is heavy. It's not something you just easily toss in your, bag and take it with you. It's a heavy item, but it just locks right in there. And the same 4 posts are at the bottom that lock into the subunit. Rock solid build. A+, 5 stars on the build for this speaker. Just top notch. The next item for the pros, the sound. Like I just mentioned in the last one, the sound on this is amazing. Closest thing I've heard to the Bose out there. It just sounds so clear. The one thing I will say about the LD over the Bose as far as sound goes, on the top of the LD there is a horn up there. And typically with a horn, again, I'm not no audio engineer, so if I'm using the wrong terms, forgive me, but the horn throws it longer. These have little speakers in there, I think 16 speakers, where this has, I think, I forget how many it has in there. I'll put it in the notes below. But there's one horn at the top, and the one thing I found out about the horn, it really throws the music to the back of the room. So that helps in coverage. Not only does it have the spread the 120-degree spread, but it also throws it with that horn. But as far as the acoustics, the way it sounds absolutely amazing. And both of these speakers over the Eevee that I like is the Eevee has that gap right here from the column to the actual sub. And when you're standing in front of it, you can kind of hear that gap in the space. I don't know how to describe it, but you could sense it. With both of these speaker systems, because there's speakers literally all the way down to the sub, you have a full range spectrum when you walk around the room. It just sounds, everywhere you walk, it just sounds clear at every level. It's just, I don't know how they do it, but that's my opinion. That's what I experience. So that's one thing on there. The next pro about this speaker that I really like is it's got a technology called Dynex. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. But basically, the louder you get, it makes it distortion free. So some speakers, when you turn them up really loud and get towards their maximum dB, they start to distort a little bit. There's some sort of technology they came up with at the German engineers at LD, and it's called Dynex, and it basically keeps it distortion free. So you can blast these at their peak sound level, and it still sounds crystal clear. So that's another pro for this speaker. All right, so that's it for the pros for the LD. Now we're gonna get into the cons. Am I gonna keep them? Am I gonna send them back? Do I like them? What do I think of them compared to the Bose L1 Pro 16s? Gonna tell you about that right now. First up for the cons for the LD Maui 28 G3s, the weight. And I don't mean weighting like on a watch, I mean weight as far as heaviness. These things, out of all three speakers, the EV Evolve 50s, the L1 Pro 16s, these are much heavier. I'll put the weight right below in the text, but they are much heavier. The columns are heavy, the bass unit's heavy, it's just an all-around heavier setup. So if you're the type of DJ like me, I know my DJs that work for me also are the same mode. They want to keep it light and simple, be in and out of these venues quick, not have to lug this heavy gear. If you're looking for that, this out of the three speakers is not the speaker for you because these are heavy. And I heard the Maui 44s sound amazing, are even louder, but they're a beast as far as weight. So these are not any light puppies whatsoever, they're heavy. So that's the first con on the Maui 28 G3s, they're heavy. Another thing with the LD systems that I don't like, I wish all companies did this, but they don't, like EV Evolve does it. They don't include any column bags or sub cover or bag or anything like that. You're on your own on that, you gotta go out and buy your own. So they don't include anything with it. That's one thing about EV Evolve 50s, they include the column bags, so I give them props for that. But with the LD, no bags. The next con for this speaker is it only has 120 degrees coverage. I'm saying only, and I'm saying 120. That sounds crazy because 5 years ago, 120 would have been insane. But anyways, 120 degrees versus the Bose, which is 180. Now, why is that a big deal? Well, for the listening audience, maybe not that big of a deal, and they won't even notice because when you do speeches and everything, that 120 that you get from the LD and the EV Evolve 50 pretty much covers the entire room. So if you're doing speeches, you have people seated in the corner of the rooms, they're still gonna hear everything pretty much crystal clear. There's not gonna be an issue. Where the 120 versus 180 comes into effect, and this is mainly for DJs that like to mix at weddings. If you get into that mode where they're digging club music, you wanna go into mix mode, the 180 eliminates the need for a booth monitor. So what I mean by that is if you're mixing, the 180 is hitting you right in the ears, which I don't like, but if you're mixing, it's awesome because you could hear everything hit you right in the ear while you're mixing. You don't need another speaker. The LD's pushing the sound out in front of you. It's 120, so it doesn't quite come back and hit you in the ear. Unless you set them up behind you, then it resolves that issue. But if they're out in front of you and tow them out like I do and like most typical DJs do, you're not gonna get that booth volume in your ear when you're mixing. So the 180 definitely comes in handy. I noticed that right away when I was using these. When I went into mixing, I'm like, I could barely hear the music out there because it's not hitting me in the ear. I went back to using these, man, I could mix, I hear that sound perfectly. So it's a great booth monitor having that 180 coverage that's coming all the way back and hitting you in the ear. All right, and then the last one, the biggest one I talked about in my last comparison with the Evolve 50s with the Bose L1 Pro 16s, Headroom. How loud are these babies? And this is just my opinion. Again, I'm not a sound engineer, but I use the EV Evolves for 3 weddings. Then I switched, I'd return those. We had a whole video about that. I'll put that at the end of this video if you want to watch it. Picked up these, used them at 3 weddings. So after using them at 3 weddings, I noticed right away they're louder than the EVs. I got more headroom. I'm not having to turn my gains all the way up like I did on the EV Evolves. So there's definitely more headroom. They're pretty loud. They're fine for weddings of 200 or less, But then I had an issue with the videographer, like I mentioned in my tease. I've over the years always allowed videographers to plug into my system for sound. So they did the out on here. I asked them, if you do plug in, please let me know when you unplug, because I'll turn the volume down when you pull out the plug. He didn't do that. He pulled it out, popped the whole system. Long story short, he blew my speaker. Send it back, so I'm getting a replacement LD. So in the meantime, I went back to my Bose for the next set of weddings. And I'm kind of glad in a way that this happened, even though I was pissed at the videographer. But I'm glad this happened because I got to go back right away and listen to the Bose again. And we were at a large venue. We were at the Renaissance Center in Joliet, which is a huge venue. Could probably seat about 400 or 500 people in there for dinner. They only had about 120, 150 for guests. But these things, after going from EV50, LD Systems Maui 28, and then back to the Bose, it just reiterated how loud and how clear these babies are. So these are a great speaker, but these are still the best. As far as volume, headroom, I mean, I have yet to hear anything in this price range for this size of groups and rooms and everything. This one by far is still the best. LD, I'm gonna be keeping these because I like the white and they don't offer it. They work great for weddings. I have plenty of volume, but if I really want to kick it into overdrive and really turn it up, the Bose beats all three of them, or beats the other two. So that's my opinion. The LDs do beat the EV50s. They are better than the EV50s as far as the volume and everything, but as far as the Bose are still the champ. They still rule. The only thing I do have about the Bose, again, is the build, but I did have a YouTube subscriber up in Canada, and I'm gonna do a video on that has a 3D printer that he made little gaskets for the bottom of this right here. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm gonna do a video. My next video is gonna be on that. Helps with the wobble, and he sent me a pair of them. I've been using them and they work great. So I'll do another video on that. But in the meantime, LD quality speaker, not quite as good as the Bose, better than the EV50, but heavier. The build out of all three, it's the best build out of all the speakers, but I'm more into the sound and volume. Those are the two most important things for me, sound and volume, and Bose has that covered by far over the other two. So that's my opinion. If you like or have any comments on any of this, please put them in the comments below. I recommend the LD systems if you're doing weddings of 180 or less, medium-sized venues. This will be plenty. But if you want that extra punch, plenty of headroom, go with this. So I guess I'm giving you all the tips. You guys decide what you want to do. But all I can say is these are much louder and more headroom with these. All right? Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, peace.